Taylor Swift is going to the Super Bowl. T-SWIZZY is going to the Super Bowl. Yes, indeed. Now, look, Taylor and I have a very special relationship. I'm not the biggest fan. I'm not the biggest fan of the music. Don't really know many songs except for the mainstream ones. Never heard an album, never went to a concert. She was actually one of the first topics I had on the podcast. Why? I basically compared her to Michael Jackson. People called me crazy, but now look at this shit. I was at a bonfire yesterday. Yeah, I go to bonfires now. I was at a bonfire yesterday, and someone across the room was like, go 49ers. Or sorry, not 49ers. Scratch that. Oh, yeah, I can't wait for the Chiefs to win the Super Bowl. I said, oh, shit. This girl loves the Chiefs. She said, because I'm a Taylor Swift fan. I have never heard this for anyone else. Any other quarterback, a wide receiver, tight end. They've never had a significant other that has made a sea of new people a fan of a sports team. T-SWIZZY is going to the Super Bowl. That's right. I don't know if I'm rooting for the Chiefs, but I'm rooting for T-SWIZZY. Like, I'm just getting on board now. What is the point of hating her? What is the point of being anti-T-SWIZZY? Like, I get it. At first I was, pro Beyonce as the queen. No one can fuck with Beyonce. But now it's getting to the point where it's like, damn, bro. Beyonce's in a different category. But what T-SWIZZY's doing right now, you can't doubt it. It's literally proving itself right in front of us. Hating on Taylor Swift right now would be like rooting for Israel. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Ajay Patel Show. My name is Ajay Patel, and that's right. I watched the NFL games yesterday. I got some time. I actually, unfortunately, didn't get to watch most of the Chiefs. Who did they beat? Chiefs-Ravens game. But I watched a lot of the 49ers-Lions game. Now, remember, I know for all of you guys that don't really like sports that much, I'm going to keep it concise, some slight conversation topics, and then we're going to keep it moving. Welcome back. This is episode 21. Episode 21. And I was in Houston this last weekend, and then I got back, watched the games, and honestly, I was just dead ass tired. So I was like, you know what? Instead of forcing a podcast with some low energy, let me record tomorrow, drop it on Tuesday, and then my 30,000 listeners, they'll forgive me. I got back, and all I saw was the Ravens fumble at the goal line, and then because of the rule, Chiefs get the ball, never recover from it. This is all highlights I'm watching, right? A big thing I do want to, the conversation does have to start is Lamar Jackson. Lamar Jackson needs to be the same way people make fun of James Harden for kind of being like this choke artist when it comes to the playoffs. A lot of times people hate on James Harden's performance when he was with Houston, and I guess some of the Philly years, maybe a Brooklyn year, and they always call him a choke artist, right? Oh, yeah, he's good during the regular season. Yeah, he can score 60 on a random night, but when it comes to playoffs, he can't perform. He turns the ball over. He can't carry his team when it matters. And I think that's always bullshit. It sucks because I'm a huge James Harden fan. I truly do believe that if Chris Paul's old ass could have stayed healthy for 2 more weeks, the Rockets go to the finals in 2000, the year that everyone on the Warriors got injured, and probably the year before that, because James Harden was playing out of his mind, and then he chokes Game 6. Everyone calls him the worst player in the world. A story for another day. Houston would have gone on to the finals. Whether they would have beat LeBron and company, I don't know. But it's like that same standard needs to be held towards Lamar Jackson. Year after year, I hear these MVP talks of Lamar, and oh my gosh, he's so great. I think last year or something, he got injured, so it wasn't a lot of that stuff. And don't get me wrong, I don't watch a lot of this NFL shit. It's too long. It's too much to keep up with. I just keep up with the headlines at some point. But yesterday's game, whether it was his fault or not, you got to start kind of, should we have the conversation? I don't know why some people just get this bulletproof shield. They can lose as much as they want in the playoffs and they'll go fine. Oh, you know what? He tried. Versus when it's other people, I guess maybe it's how easy is the target, right? How easy does it catch on? Or The other thing I put to it was when you're playing football, a lot of people don't really know, like the casual viewer, right? For myself, right? I know the people because I keep up with sports, but someone that's just watching the Ravens, you just see a quarterback. You don't necessarily know his face. You don't know what he looks like and all that stuff. But if you're watching basketball, you see the fully out, right? He's not wearing a helmet. You see him to his face. Now that's some psychology shit that we're not going to go down. But I saw that game. I saw that I saw the clips of the Chiefs throwing the Justin Tucker, who is the kicker on the Ravens, shit before the game, just throwing it like to the side so he couldn't practice his kicks or whatever he was doing. And damn, from I didn't know that would be the tone for what happened after that. They just punked him. And then we go over to the Lions and 49ers game. I was rooting for the Lions because I liked the underdog storyline. Whether I think they were the favorites, whether they were or not. The Detroit Lions have not been historically a great team. Detroit in general has been struggling with sports lately. I don't know if you watched that basketball team, but they were on a losing streak for a while. So for the Detroit Lions to make it to the Super Bowl, that would have been an amazing story. And then they start winning. They're winning the game at halftime. They're up by a significant amount. Maybe, what was it, 20 points, 28-7, something like that. And then next thing you know, boy, oh boy, did that shit take a turn. Like, I was watching it passively on the couch. We were all just hanging out on a Sunday, just chilling. And then one thing after another, things just started happening where it's like, oh shit, oh shit, damn, he dropped that. Damn, he dropped that. Oh, they going for it on 4th and 3? Boom, turnover. Oh, what? He dropped it again. And then you're not even surprised that they lose. It's like, damn, they deserve this. And the 49ers is the one team, well, I guess one of two teams that I've witnessed play in person this year. I've only seen two teams play in person, the Rams versus 49ers. And them boys are dangerous. Oh my gosh. They dismantled the Rams when I went to go watch them. I left that like in the third quarter because I was like, this shit's over. I thought it was over at halftime yesterday. And then boom, comeback win. 49ers fans are the scariest group of fans, I think. Now I'm speaking from a subset of, fans I know, right? All the Texas fans, some New York fans, and then the California fans, whether it's like you root for the Golden State Warriors, you root for the Lakers. No one really roots for the Clippers. And then now I get to witness more and more 49ers fans. And it's a dangerous type of support because Dallas fans, they're crazy, right? They hold on to the past, and we like to, and I'm talking specifically football, right? Specifically Cowboys fans. Probably the craziest group of fans you'll ever meet in the world, besides anyone from Boston. Craziest group of fans you'll ever meet in the world. After that, Houston fans. Now, Houston fans, they like to just dog on you for your lack of accomplishment. Like, they'll get on your ass. They may make it one round farther than you, but they'll get on your ass. And you can't even say shit because they did make it farther than you. And then you got the 49ers fans. Oh my gosh. On my plane ride back from Houston, there was at least 6 people wearing 49ers jackets. And they all, after the flight landed and the seatbelt sign turns off and everyone stands up, they're all just looking at each other, giving each other head nods. Like they knew. They knew. They didn't root. They didn't chant anything. They just looked at each other, gave each other a head nod, and they knew we're about to win this shit. And sure enough, they did. Going back to the SWIZZY piece, there's some stuff online where she's in like I've went down a rabbit hole of TikToks of, oh yeah, you know what? She's going to be in Tokyo for a concert on February 10th. The Super Bowl is February 11th. Will she make it back in time? And y'all can go ahead and bet that she will 100% be there. This type of stardom, and look, I'm not even talking about anything about their relationship. I don't know shit about that. I just mean who she is as a star. And she's done no wrong, right? Like, it'd be one thing if she had the R. Kelly reputation where she was talking to young boys and all that shit. No, she's dating a grown-ass man that's out there on the field playing. She's not just fangirling. So it's like going back to what I was saying, it's just like it's hard to hate her. In addition to that, I was thinking about my schedule because me and T Swizzy are just as busy as each other. I'm in Colombia on February 11th for the Super Bowl. And the one reason I completely forgot about this, but the one reason I want to make sure I'm back home to watch this thing in its entirety is because that boy Usher is performing. Now I raved about this on a past episode, but it's coming up. And I was thinking about, like the last, let's say, 10 years of Super Bowl halftime performances and which ones I've enjoyed, which ones have just been like, like I could have done without that. I know a lot of people were a fan of the Rihanna performance. Oh, she did it pregnant. She killed it. It was okay. It was okay. If we're being honest, it was okay. Oh, but she was pregnant. I didn't ask her to be pregnant. Like we could have found someone else. Is she a star of a different magnitude? 100%. But that performance was all right. That doesn't mean I hate her. That doesn't mean I don't like listening to her any less. That performance was okay. In the last 10 years, I went back and I think the one person that I enjoyed thoroughly, where I was like, damn, that was awesome and I want to watch that again, was Justin Timberlake. Now, I don't want to sound like I'm fangirling JT, but I liked it a bunch. The ending where he ends up in the audience was okay, but as far as like the hits that he has, how you can't beat that. That fool was a pop star for a solid decade. The people that were competing against him were like Kanye West. That's a different level of stardom, I guess. The other ones that did stand out was the one in LA, I think last year, 2 years ago. Who was it? It was Dr. Dre and everyone that signed to him. That was awesome. But I almost prefer the one artist approach, right? Where it's one artist and then there's maybe a couple of guests. So like Justin Timberlake didn't have any guests from what I remember. Sometimes like I forgot who's the last person that brought out guests. Coldplay. Oh shit, that one was also pretty cool. So the Coldplay, Beyonce, Bruno Mars little 3-year run leading up to I think was the 50th anniversary. Dope. All of that, look, ignore all of that shit. I'm rambling now. I think this Usher performance will be something very memorable and legendary. The song Yeah came on when we went out in Houston, and I was just thinking, this is one of the biggest songs ever. I don't want to look this up and try to prove it numerically and actual pull actual data behind it, but this is one of the biggest songs ever. Growing up from, let's say 2000, where year did that song come out? Let me look it up. The song came out in 2004. The biggest hit of Usher's career, Yeah, shot to #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 and stayed there for 12 consecutive weeks. Internationally, the song topped several charts, including in Australian, okay, whatever. But that song has got to be one of the biggest hits ever. Is it my favorite song of his? No, probably not. But that is a massive hit. And then you add on songs like Burn, You Got It Bad, Caught Up. Basically everything he did at that tiny desk. He didn't do Yeah there because it's a weird forum. Oh, so then that's actually a perfect segue to the guest thing, right? Where it's like, I expect Usher to bring out Ludacris and Lil Jon for that song. For any other song that he has features on, I don't expect that to happen. And he has been in a lot of new songs lately. The issue is there's just so much freaking music nowadays that no one really keeps up with this stuff, right? You hear about it's all about the money that's put behind this music now. So like when Drake releases, the amount of money and media that goes behind that, when it came out. You listen to it, you hear it on the radio. It's much more mainstream. Same thing with other big artists, right? Kendrick Lamar, Cole, Beyonce, T Swizzy. The Usher songs nowadays, they don't have the same press or popularity behind it. And it's also hard to, right? When you're a star that big in the early 2000s, it's hard to come back and have that same push for the same generation. Do I get excited when new Usher songs come out? No. Not even a single bit. Can I watch that dude dance all day on YouTube if he's doing music videos? Probably. But the songs, it's just not the same. I will be thoroughly disappointed if this goes bad. Like if it becomes some dubstep shit and a bunch of random artists start coming out because it's like, oh, this will, if I have these people, it'll pop on TikTok and Instagram reels and stuff like that for the younger generation. I'll be pretty upset. I hope this performance aims at the old heads and above, right? People that were listening to him off of LimeWire or FrostWire, shit like that. I hope that is the audience this is targeting. If this goes for the TikTok generation, which, hey, don't get me wrong, I'm not shitting on TikTok a bit, but the generation I'm talking about, I'll be pretty upset. But like I was saying, I was in Houston this past weekend celebrating a friend's birthday. My friend Kristen turned 30 years old. So now that all the weddings and bachelor parties are done, we got 30th birthdays. This is a thing now. This is a thing now where it's like, hey, you know what? Let's have a big party for this, right? Your big parties are 21, 30, and then probably every decade after that. So now this year, even though, don't get me wrong, the 30th birthday costs are so much lower than like a wedding expense. So for me, I fly into Houston on Friday. I come back Sunday. I'm staying at his house, so I don't have any lodging expense. I'm paying for a short trip. I'm not paying for food because they're feeding us. Versus a wedding where it's like, oh, you got to get outfits, you got to get the flight, you got to get the hotel for 4 days, you got to do this and that, right? The wedding cost is much different. But what I'm saying is just as far as like weekends occupied, these 30th birthdays will take over. And I'm not trying to shit on my boy right now, right? But this is just what it is. Last year, I had to skip some 30th birthdays because it's like, there's just so much shit going on. I can't even afford this right now. Did you guys forget I moved to LA? I'm spending about $300 a night going out here. Not every night, but a lot of nights. Shit ain't cheap. But this one in particular was awesome, man. I will say I had so much fun, especially because I got to see my boys that I haven't seen since September, since the last freaking wedding, right? We didn't get together over the holidays too much. Like, it's been hard to coordinate a bunch of schedules. When you got a group of dudes and everyone starts getting in relationships, and please, I preface all of this with saying I'm not trying to give a negative connotation to getting in a relationship. This is just what the reality is. This is just what the reality is as far as when a group of, let's say, 5 dudes get into relationships, instead of coordinating a schedule for 5 guys to hang out, right? Like, hey, let's all go to here this weekend. Let's all go here. Add on the layer of having busy schedules. COVID is over. Things are back up. People still have to go to family obligations. People still have to go to their own obligations, right? Half of them got married. They got to deal with that stuff. They're buying houses, maybe planning for a family. There's that stuff in the schedule. But I just mean as far as like, hey, let's all get together and hang out. The let's all get together part now is just an assumption of the guys and the girls. And it's a bad thing. It's a bad thing that exists because I don't just witness that in my friend group. I see that a lot externally, right? I see a lot of group of dudes or a group of girls that don't get together as much because it's like the barrier / friction of pulling the plan off. One, everything has to be event driven now. Oh, is it a birthday? Oh, what are we getting together for? I don't know, just to hang out, bro. Like that doesn't exist as much anymore. Now it's one thing if everyone's local, right? If everyone's in Dallas and it's like you're planning a dinner, then you can maybe make something happen in a moment's notice. Like, hey, let's just all go hoop. Let's all go do this. Let's all go do that. And by let's all, I just mean the guys. But when you're coordinating things from city to city, right? There's a lot of time, there's this thing of like, oh, it needs to be for an occasion for it to be justified. And I don't like that. But whatever, like why fight that battle? Why fight that battle as of right now if we have something on the calendar, right? We had this birthday here. Going back to what I was saying as far as like coordinating the schedule becomes what can the guys do and then what can the guys and the girls do? And so then when things don't line up, right? When this couple can't come and now this couple drops off because it's like, oh, well, I don't want it to just be us 4. I want it to be us 6. And it's all because maybe one person had a conflict in their schedule. This past weekend, Isha was in Tucson. with her girl squad for another birthday celebration, and more layers on top of that. But she couldn't go. That didn't mean I had to drop. I went. And I'm trying to be better at this, where it's like, hey, let's get together as a group of, let's just say the guys, right? Let's just all go do a guys trip. This doesn't need to exist. Like, this doesn't need to be a thing every single time where it's like, oh, we're getting together for what? Oh, can all the plus ones come? Oh, this one person cannot come, therefore all the plans fall apart. So to have this finally happen, to have a group get together, even though Isha could not come to this one, I was super excited. I was super excited to see these boys again since September. I landed in Houston on Friday, and Houston's always a vibe. Houston is always a vibe. I'm not the biggest fan of their sports fans, even though half of them are my boys. But Houston has always been a vibe. There's just this feeling of like every single time, post college or even in college, when we would drive to Houston just on a random weekend, randomly get together and be like, hey, we're just going to go out. Now, the same stuff doesn't happen, right? We're not just getting together to go out, because it's like the shit's half exhausting. When you start getting to this age, it's like, can we just stay home? Can we just stay home? I'm down to keep drinking, but let's just stay home. My old ass can't go out there, do the whole wrestling match to get a drink at the bar, have some bouncer deny me getting in because it's too many dudes. It's a different vibe now, but it's still, Houston is still a vibe itself. As far as the culture goes, the food is probably still the best in Texas. And then, of course, by culture, I mean the diversity, right? When you go out in Houston, you're not going to a lot of posh white neighborhood bars. You're not going to a lot of places that it's like, oh, you don't have that many girls with you? Nah, you can't come in. Oh, like this and that. You got to wear dress shoes. You got to have your shirt tucked in. Houston's always been a chill spot. Now, don't get me wrong. I may be lacking knowledge as far as like different areas of Houston that are like that, but I'm just talking about my experience. Get to Houston, do some birthday celebrations. We spent Saturday doing a hibachi show. So Chris and the birthday boy had a couple of hibachi chefs come in, and we did the whole thing in the backyard. Always a vibe. These live events where you just do it at home and the parents can come and everyone could just chill and have a good time. You're not bound by the table when you're at a birthday, like a big ass birthday dinner at a restaurant. You're not ordering a bunch. Like, it's just a good time. The hibachi chefs were fun as hell, right? They're spraying that sake water gun into everyone's mouths and, just giving a show. Was the food good? Not that great. I feel like they were in a little bit of a rush, and the rice was a bit crunchy. The chicken was a bit chew. Like, it was just like, the food wasn't great. But who the fuck cares? Who cares about this food when I'm this lit right now? We get on a party bus. Everyone ends up passing out on the bus. We get back home. I catch a flight. I watch the games, and now we're back. It was a dope trip overall, but man, I'm a high anxiety individual. I try not to be, but I'm trying to shake it, but I can't. Every time I try to shake it, I get anxious about shaking it, and it's just a loop. But holy shit, I used to have a thing where every time I would get on a long flight, like something from, like, let's say you're going to London, a pretty long flight, 9-hour flight. I always had this thing where I would puke. It was just bound to happen. I was probably 8 years old, and for a string of years, every single time we would go to London to visit my grandparents, somewhere in the 9-hour journey, I would puke. And I wouldn't have the wherewithal to be like, hey, I'm about to puke. Let me go to the restroom. Let me go to the whatever they call it on the plane. Let me go to the restroom. Never did that. I would just either puke in that small little white bag that they give you, or one time just puked on myself. I've always had this weird thing with flights. I don't know whether it was the turbulence or what. And then from probably 13 onwards, I was good. Until, let's say, adult time, where if that thing starts shaking a little bit, I instantly go by the Wi-Fi, because I'm like, all right, you know what? I'm about to die. Let me make sure I text everyone that I love them. One time before a flight, I remember I texted my sister a mock-up will. I know I sound crazy, but I'm dead ass serious. Where Before we even took off, I was like, you know what? Southwest has been tripping a bit. Let me make sure that in case I die, nothing goes awry, right? Let me make sure my assets are in place. Let me make sure someone is in charge of everything. I literally texted a full paragraph to my sister saying, in the case of anything happening, X, Y, and Z are to occur. This is who the house would go to. This is what any other assets would go to, and blah, blah, blah. And as of recently, as of the month of January 2024, I know you guys have been seeing all these plane doors popping off, these plane windows opening, uh, people trying to stab people in the cabin. Like, there's just too many incidents on a plane now. So when anything happens, boy, oh boy, I was literally boarding the flight to Houston Friday morning, and right above the head of the door, when you're walking in from the jet bridge to the plane, I saw that tag. I saw that tag that said Boeing. And this fear that came into me is just so unjustified. And I don't know what it is, but when that thing was shaking this time, I literally was texting everyone like, yo, this boy is shaking. I think there was a storm in Houston and then just Southwest planes in general. I'm truly fascinated by the idea of like, can these planes still do this job? Like, is Southwest getting planes for the low? Like, is there a big ass plane vendor that's like, hey, you know what, Southwest, we got these old planes here, but they still work. They go up, they go down. They still work. You want to buy them? And then they're like, shit, if it'll save me some money, I'll do it. These airlines are such thieves nowadays, right? Like, I'm not talking about like the shit that we all deal with, right? We all know that we all got to pay for check-in bags and all that stuff. And then people root about Southwest because it's like, oh, you know what? I get 2 free check-in bags. I get the flexibility. And those things are great. But as far as it being cheaper, not really. Shit ain't that cheap. And then the open seating policy, boy, I hate that shit. I hate that stuff. It's like going to watch an Indian movie in theaters or any Indian show in general. Like, if you are a non-Indian person listening to this, y'all are going to deal with this eventually. Where you go to someone's South Asian talent show, you go to some dance performance, maybe it's a singing competition, or you go to watch an Indian movie. It is becoming more popular. I can see it being a more mainstream thing to non-brown people soon. Where if you go to the theater and you're like, oh shit, can't wait to pick my seat, you will see one person and they'll have their jacket taken off and it'll be spread across 2 seats. Then they'll have their purse in that 3rd seat. Then they'll take off another piece of clothing, put it in the next 4 seats. And that whole row of primetime seating will be taken by one person. And you got to have the awkward conversation of being like, is anyone sitting here? You got to look like an absolute idiot and be like, can I sit here? And they're going to be like, oh no, I'm saving it. Sorry. I'm saving it for people. Same thing with Southwest. I got on that damn flight and I prefer the exit row because I'm tall as shit. And in case anything goes bad, I'm going to be the first one off the plane. Or I might be a true leader and get everyone off the plane in a safe manner. Everyone's saving seats. Everyone's got their bag on one seat. Some other food, let's say their Chick-fil-A bag on another seat. It's getting ridiculous. And I don't know if you guys have kept up with this shit, but Southwest is starting to allow big passengers to reserve another seat. You're going to get on a Southwest flight and there's going to be a big boy or a big girl with the paper next to them that says, I'm allowed to have this seat. You're going to go a row down. Someone's going to have their jacket on the seats, saving the other seats. Next thing you know, you're in a middle seat. And it's not the biggest deal, right? I think we put too much emphasis on how bad the middle seat is. People call it the bitch seat when you're sitting in a car. But this shit is so annoying. I'm always late to check in, so I already got boarding positions B58. I'm getting on that damn plane. Everyone's got seats taken. I get on the plane. They throw the snacks at you. They don't hand it to you. They just throw the snacks at you. It's not a drink cart that comes around. Everything's a la carte. You go to the bathroom. They don't even have real paper napkins to dry your hands with anymore. Now they just have Kleenex that you dry your hands with. I don't know whether that was Kleenex or the toilet paper. This shit is, they are cutting pennies wherever they can. So am I of the belief that they would buy a plane for the low and just be like, fuck it, let's just throw it in the air. We'll make a couple million and then we'll get another plane. And if we don't, whatever. We'll just file for bankruptcy. The government will help us out, and then we'll be back on our feet before we know it. Those planes are the shakiest shits ever. Look, I know how much people hate American Airlines because they cancel flights left and right. And, they probably have a handful of racist people working for them. But that is honestly the flights I feel safest on. American, Delta, like the big boys. I'm not talking about the Frontier flights or Spirit. What's another budget one? Copa Airline. I don't, like it's the big airlines that sometimes I am like, oh, you know what? This plane does feel like it can handle the sky better. Should I stop ranting about travel? Oh, no, I got one more goddamn thing. Listen, ladies and gentlemen, do not ever rent an electric EV car. Sorry. Don't ever rent an EV car that is not a Tesla. I had the worst experience in Houston. I had to Uber to Kristen's house. So it was going to be probably about $60. And then I had to get there again at 5 a.m. for my 6 a.m. flight on Sunday. So I thought, you know what? It might be difficult to get Ubers. It'll end up cheaper if I rent a car. Boom. I rent a car. The black lady at the counter. In Houston, you get called sweetheart a lot. Sweetie, very endearing terms. She said, honey, are you good with having an EV car? I said, of course, ma'am. I drive a Tesla full time. Point me to the Tesla. She pointed at a Hyundai Genesis G80 or something. I opened that door, straight smoke. I said, ma'am, do you have any other car? She points me to another Hyundai Genesis. I said, is there anything else? She points me to a third Hyundai Genesis. I had to go with the Hyundai Genesis. I go run errands for the birthday. I was like, you know what? Let me go pick up some more beers. I don't think this is enough. I go out on the town. Car dies. It doesn't die completely, right? It gives you the hey, the battery's getting low message. So basically, I rented this car that was already a half battery. Shit dies on me. And every EV station you go to, there's one charger. It's not like the Tesla superchargers where you go there and there's a string of 6 of them. And then you're like, oh, perfect. You know what? I might have to wait for like one person to finish. But at max, it takes maybe 20 minutes per car, 40 minutes per car if they're going to a higher percentage. And then they leave. I go into the spot. Boom, boom. I'm done. Now, I understand a lot of people have a quarrel with electric cars because it's like, this could be a 5-minute thing, right? This could be a thing where I just have a gas car, go to a gas station, boom, I'm gone. I get it. There is a trade-off. But as far as the electric world does go, I do prefer Tesla. With this goddamn Hyundai Genesis, I was driving around Houston, and of course it's Houston, so it was fucking raining. So I'm driving around in this rain, going to different EV stations, and they're all in these apartment complexes. I get to the apartment complex, gates closed. I'm not a resident, so I can't get in. I'm going to these local banks. I went to 5, 6, 7 different EV stations that I kept getting denied at. I ended up plugging in at a Shell gas station outside into a regular outlet. It took 30 minutes to get 1%. I eventually find an EV Go station at some HEB parking lot. Luckily, no one was there. And it was just like, I should not be dealing with this. So for anyone listening to this, do not ever, ever, ever rent an electric vehicle from one of these big rental agencies. Always go with gas. As far as your permanent car, I get it. You can have a charger at home. You can charge that thing overnight and you're good. That's different. I'm just talking about when you are on these trips, go with gas. All right, let's get off that travel rant. In other news, for anyone that's been keeping up with these politics, we talked about it last week, and someone did bring it to my attention that they were like, oh, like if you were voting for Vivek because he was Indian, why don't you vote for Nick Haley? And I didn't have an answer. I said, God damn, you know what? Maybe I should be rooting for her. I looked at the polls recently as she's been competing with just mainly Trump. I don't know who else has been on these tickets for these primaries. And she's been getting her ass absolutely handed to her. And then she gives these speeches at the end like, we did it. We made it this far. What? When you lose these elections, you shouldn't be allowed to come out. You should just have to stand in back. Maybe send out a tweet, make a little Insta reel. What's it called? A YouTube short. But she is getting destroyed. There was I get it. Look, for Vivek, it would have been no different. Trump would have killed both of them. And I was starting to get around the curve of like, you know what? Maybe I should support Nick Haley. I was getting around the curve and I was thinking, you know what? I should support Nick Haley. She's brown. Does she look the most brown? Not really. But if she's brown, she's brown. Has she owned it at all? You know, I know a lot of people are giving her shit about like going by, you know, not her real name. But like, whatever. You know, like she's playing a game. Like you wouldn't be going by your real name if you had some long ass complicated name and you were going for office with all these white people you need to convince to vote for you. You wouldn't do it. But then when I was looking at it, I was like, God damn, you know, there's a 0% chance that she pulls this off. Unless somehow Trump just dies. She ain't pulling this off. And then I've been seeing all these videos of good old Joe on the other side. And holy snap, does he have a cult? It was one thing where I was like, you know what? There's no way anyone's voting for this guy, right? But behind him being pretty senile, him just, you know, blanking out while he's talking to the public, whatever he's done with the Israel-Palestine stuff, there's no way anyone's voting for this guy. And then you see these clips of him speak in public for as best as he can. Someone will yell out some crazy shit. Crazy but factual. 38 people are dying in the Gaza Strip every day. And he's a professional, right? He's obviously, you're not going to combat it and be like, oh, no, they're not, right? Like these are factual things people are yelling out. Is he the reason that this is happening? No, but he's not helping the situation. And then the amount of people that start chanting 4 more years, 4 more years, it's scary. It's a cult, man. And I truly believe that no one from the Democratic ticket will make it past him. And how can you, right? Like, even though he's had all this bad press, you know, falling down, forgetting lines, just being kind of out of it, that's still 4 years of press that he got. Whether people are feeling sympathy, whether they're just feeling supportive, he still has people behind him. And so when it comes to who will be on the ticket in November, it's hard to doubt that it will be anyone other than the same people we had last time. Oh, man. I truly did not anticipate to talk about travel and sports that much, but I wanted to talk about some of the Apple Vision stuff. But you know what? I'll take a beat on it and just do some more research and, you know, just find some more talking points. But I do think, like we kind of talked about last week, where it's like someone knocks over the first domino. And this Apple Vision Pro headset, if you guys haven't seen it, please do check it out. It's a big ass VR headset, but it's not VR. It's a big ass headset that looks like a VR headset, like the Oculus, the Quest, all that stuff. And it's basically like having your iPhone displayed in real life, right? You put on this headset, this big old piece of eyewear, and you can engage with your apps and do all this stuff right in front of you as if you could just project stuff like you were Iron Man or some shit. Now, does it sound crazy? A bit, right? Like, do we need this? And I just saw some video recently that someone was using an Oculus and they were watching some tutorial on how to like fix their engine, and then they would look over and it was their engine. So like there are use cases for this stuff, right? Where it's like, oh, that's pretty cool. You know, you can engage with the video while you're, you know, you don't have to prop your phone up on something random and then it falls and you got to pause it and do all this stuff. You can interact with it with your hands and nothing else. But I do think that what this will be is a domino for other people to get into the game. So now I think either Samsung, or I forgot what the video I saw was, they're making their is it AR? Augmented reality? AR headsets. And so then they're going to start entering the game. So even though that this headset may be, you know, a bust, because who's paying $3,500 for this besides people that are thoroughly enthralled with their toys? I do think this will just serve more so as a domino for more AR headsets to come and more AR technology. I think you'll start seeing companies try to figure out how can we get things behind this. The same way I talked about that Rabbit tool a couple days ago, where it's like just stepping up the experience of the user. It's, I don't want to say revolutionary because like I don't want to be too dramatic about it, but the idea is the same, right? Is there a domino falling here that others will follow in its footsteps? Or it could just be a bust. What do I have going on this week, man? I actually go to Colombia on Saturday for a full week. I've never been, and this is going to be like we were just talking about, like a trip with your boys is something that's very underrated. A trip with your girls, same thing, where it's just like, let's just go spend time. You know, like let's just go do something that we haven't spent this much time together since we were in college. So I'm going to Colombia for a friend's bachelor party. Hopefully I make it back before the Super Bowl. And until next time, ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys so much for tuning in. Don't forget to comment, like, subscribe, share, talk shit. And I'll see you guys next week. Bye.